Hello, and welcome to the Word on the Streets November Book Talk. This month, musician Errol Ranville is here to discuss his new memoir, Run as One, My Story, published by Great Plains Publications earlier this year. In the guest interviewer seat, we have Carmine Starnino, editor-at-large for the Walrus magazine. Before we dive into our discussion, we need to recognize the land we occupy. The Toronto of today exists because of the Toronto Purchase, also known as Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation in 1805, with a final claim settlement in 2010. Watts Toronto also recognizes the history of the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, the Huron-Wendat, and the Seneca nations in this territory. The place in which Watts operates is the subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to care for and share the resources around the Great Lakes in peace. Toronto, or Toronto, is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples with long histories on this land, and acknowledging this is only the first step in building a practice of land stewardship and Indigenous solidarity that honors these peoples. We encourage you to educate yourself about the land you occupy, wherever you're tuning in from. And now a bit of background on this month's guest. Errol Ranville is one of 12 siblings who grew up in poverty in rural Manitoba. He rose to fame with a national #1 hit song in 1980 that led to JUNO nominations in 1985 and 86. He went on to record a total of 20 albums over a span of 40 years in the entertainment business. Errol is recording a new album of original songs and working on a screenplay for a made-for-TV movie of his life. Welcome, Errol, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And I'm also going to welcome Carmine. And hi. And I'll leave it to you both. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Errol, it's great to talk to you.
Hey,
I mean, lots of reasons why. I loved your music, and I love your music. But I was really moved by your memoir. It has got to be one of the most candid accounts of someone's life I think I've ever read. You describe a hard scrabble upbringing in rural Manitoba, a childhood where you say you often went hungry. You narrate moments of shocking racism. You talk about your use of alcohol, your cocaine addiction. You recall your wife's death in this horrific car accident. I mean, there's a lot of beauty in the book. Don't get me wrong. This is a story ultimately of triumph over circumstance. But it could not have been easy to dredge up all of that stuff. Many details I'm assuming you were sharing for the first time. So the first question I have, the most pressing one for me, is what drove you to write the memoir? Why not leave all those painful memories alone?
Well, you nailed it. It was very difficult to go through a lot of that stuff. It still is at times, but time passes and life is good.
Yeah.
I guess what drove me to write it, I credit the Nietzsche community, I call it, the Aboriginal community across Canada, for their participation in our campaign, our musical campaign, across the country. I think they saw an opportunity to, they detected a rising star, and they had an opportunity to jump behind it and support it. So the community itself, I believe, has just as much credit for the Seaweed Band campaign as we do, if not more at times. So I really appreciate them being in our corner, and they hired us. They bought our tickets. They bought the records, the songs. They phoned the radio stations. We used the system of the Indian Métis Friendship Centers across Canada. There's 613 Indian bands across Canada, and they all became part of this national and international campaign.
So you wrote the memoir to honor that?
I think so. Yeah, I've spoken with different people. Phil Fontaine, we spent some time together. I played for his wedding a couple of years back, and we talked about this. And he just said, it's a story that needs to be told. We don't have a lot of heroes in our community, and I think that the youth, the young people come up, they need to know and even get a feel for that time, those times like that. The 1980s, 1970s. and understand what it was like to have a dream at that time.
Yeah.
I think today there's a lot more opportunity, but it's all important.
Yeah. What was the process of writing the book like? Like, I mean,
Well, you know what
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
no, no. I mean, I guess I'm curious how long it took, how you organized
Well,
your time, that sort of thing.
yeah, it took a long time, Carmine. I sat with John for hours and hours, and we recorded all the interviews, and I have to give him, all the credit as well, for the organization of the information. I mean, I needed to bare my soul, as I needed to put down or say, the things that we wanted. There's a lot of stuff that we didn't make it into the book, but I think we chose a lot of the information that ran together, and but it took a long time, and through those hours and hours of interviews, John arranged all of the information into a sort of like a flowing thing, and then I went in and sort of fine-tuned it all and put some emotion and some of the stuff that John was just sort of, this happened, that happened, then this happened, and then we went there, and then and I went in and put as much of the the punch to it. So
Yeah.
it was a good team. It was a long time. And I think we were passionate, and we were careful, and we really wanted to have something of value.
Are you surprised by what you left in, and are you surprised by what you took out? Is there anything about the book that you feel? So I guess two questions. One, are you surprised about where you ended up going in the book? Like,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
it always would be, because you have preconceived notions. You have, of course, caution. You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and all those kinds of things come into play. Like, you want to be respectful,
Yeah.
and yet you still want to tell the story. You can't
Yeah.
omit a lot of the things that are real, and you need to make the story as real as you can. So I was a bit surprised at the final product, but I also it was emotional.
Yeah.
It came together really well.
Do you feel any responsibility? It sounds like you do, in fact, feel responsibility towards some of the people you write about. I mean, did you show the book to family, friends?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
First, before I even signed off on it, I made sure everybody read it and made sure.
Was that to get the facts right, or to get their permission? Like, were you trying to get? I mean, I'm assuming you wanted to get the details right, but was it important for you that they, in fact, sign on to what you were saying about them?
Yeah, it just comes down to respect, for everyone that was involved, and I did make phone calls, and a warning.
A warning, yeah.
Yeah.
Is anyone? How has it been received? I mean, it's been
Very
received.
well.
Yeah.
Very well. And all of the names that arose in the story, I haven't gotten one bad, feedback from it. Everyone that was involved or made it into the book have all had high praise of the whole. But they were more or less impressed by the whole package. Like, they see, the way you covered everything, and the book. The final book is maybe 1/10 or 1/20 of what could be told.
Well, then I'm curious about what's not. I mean, what's in there? What's in the book is stark at times, and and so, what was your? I'm just intensely curious about what your decision process was about what not to include. Was it because you felt you had said enough about a particular topic? Was it because you felt that this particular thing you would be revealing, the story or anecdote, would be too hurtful to particular people? I mean, was there a kind of ethic sort of guiding you, or were you just trying to tell the best story possible with what you had?
I think it's a balance of both, Carmine, for sure. I know that there's a lot to be told, but we wanted to make sure that we had enough of the right information to make it like this pass of this story is the first, I think the first take on it. This is the sanitized version. I think that, traveling in a band and tearing up the country. There's, and I read Keith Richards' book, and his whole approach to dealing with all the faces and names that came through the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
And so I think that the next pass will probably be a little more raunchy. It'll be a bit more of what a lot of people probably expect from a band story. So, but we just wanted to make sure that this pass here that we it would be good for schools. It would be good for the kids.
Yes, of course.
It's a story of triumph, and and when you look at where I started from and where I live today, where it's impossible. I remember going to university, and Professor Morrow was a friend of mine, and he told me, that for you to be here in my class, I don't understand how you possibly made it here. He was a sociology professor. Yeah. We used to spend hours after his class and just talk about the whole Aboriginal scene, and he was really, really curious, and he wanted to know from me. So
yeah, well, you said something that makes me curious. I mean, did you read other books by other musicians, other memoirs by musicians, to get a sense of how to do it, or did you sort of wing it?
A bit of both again, but I sure did. I was really impressed with Robbie Robertson's
that's a good
story.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful to him. A lot of the, page for page, I recognized, the times and the people, and so I did read a lot of other biographies, but in the end, I think you can't really go by what everybody has their own there's their own level of caution, I guess, of what they want to tell.
Yeah.
And for me, it just seemed really important to tell a lot of the heartache and a lot of the grief, and then share the triumph of it all. I mean, we won. That's the deal. We won.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, I have a question that's maybe an odd one, but what has the memoir given you that you couldn't do in a song? I mean, which
couldn't
is
do a song?
In a song, yeah. I mean, songwriting is largely the form that's defined you and has given you fame and a life. But what did working with prose provide that you couldn't get writing something else? For example, I know that you're working on a screenplay, and I'm assuming that some of the material in this book is also being sort of staged, for that screenplay. But I'm just wondering. In a way, this is an obvious question, but I'm curious about your answer. Like, what sort of creative process do you go through when you're writing a song, and how was that different when you were working on a book like this?
That's a really good question, Carmine. I appreciate you asking it. Songwriting to me is like a big deal. I love to write songs, and I'm still writing songs, and I've got more songs than I need for the next album. But you see, I believe the songs are already written, and some of us are fortunate to hear them and to I hear them in my head when I'm trying to sleep or driving. Magic in the Music I wrote driving from Ottawa back to Winnipeg, and so that process is kind of mysterious in a way. I've never ever sat down with a guitar and a pen and paper and said, today I'm going to write a song. I'd sit there all day and nothing would happen, So, but writing the book there, I think there's a little bit more personal. There's a personal level, whereas songs, a lot of times I write because I've observed characters at the mall, and I start to think about what their story might be. And then later on at night, the tune comes, and so I put that into music. So I can always, determine that it's somebody else that I'm writing with. But this time, you're kind of naked. You
Yeah.
Now you have to sort of tell it just the way it is. You're not making it up, and you're not fitting in lines that sound melodically nice and
Yeah. Yeah.
all that kind of thing. So it's a different product. And then the screenplay we're working on, wow, what a difference. Like writing a book is a walk in the park, and screenplay, like you have to set up the whole scene. Like you gotta,
Yeah.
is it daytime? Is it night? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it cloudy? You have to sort of
Interesting.
set up your scene and the people in it and where they're positioned and why and all this kind of stuff. It's a whole different story. Like there's 10 pages on 3 seconds of
Yeah.
event.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah, but it's and the other thing too is there's a bit of license for the screenplay writer. Cam sort of and so there I have to really clear it with the people that are involved, because it's not really the story.
Yeah.
He's made it up to give it the kind of drama that he's trying to create with the story. So it's more in his ballpark. I'm the student. I'm learning what a screenplay is supposed to look like and sound like and all of that. So
Yeah.
it's different. So my writing in this sense is more listening, and then I add lines. He sends me what he's written, and then I send it back.
Yeah.
Make corrections, if it was a cousin or a niece or that kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to spend a bit more time on the music, because there was a moment in the book that struck me and moved me, actually, where you say that I mean, you talk about this pain that you survived, and then you say that music became your special place.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you can talk a bit more about what that means to you. What music is a special place.
Well, you
means.
know what? Music is a sort of freedom. To me, it reminds me of a bird in flight, like an eagle in flight. You're free to go anywhere. It seems like you can soar, and so you can take yourself away from whatever's happening, whether it's painful or whether it's complicated, or you're just in a place where it's not a good time. And I go to my guitar in my room, and I go away. I go someplace different. And when I start and even if I'm just singing songs that I've sang 1,000 times or whatever, I'm just singing by myself, loud as I can, as if I'm in a concert.
Yeah.
I'm not there anymore. I'm with the music. I've left behind whatever it was that eventually I have to go back to anyway, and deal with. But
Yeah.
in the meantime, music is an anecdote. It sort of gives me a little space where I can step over,
Yeah.
and I deal with the rest of life a little bit easier after I've added music.
Yeah. You've had by any measure, you've had an incredibly successful career, and it's a success your memoir references, because the title is named after one of your songs, "Run as One." I think you should know that. But there is a powerful counterfactual question that runs through the book, because you are living your life, as far as I understand, that very nearly didn't happen. You didn't attend a residential school because you say your family had no treaty status. So the federal government effectively didn't notice you. I mean, that's my understanding from the book. So your family moves to Winnipeg and allowing you to sort of pursue your musical dreams.
Yeah.
But you also imply that you're one of the lucky ones compared to your older brother, Sterling, who did go to residential school and was later treated for issues because of it. And I'm just wondering if you can talk a little bit about that, how the sense of what you were spared or the life unlived influenced you, or maybe influenced the writing of this book even.
Well, we were invisible, and so we sort of crawled through the wrath, of that whole tragedy. But it doesn't mean that we were completely separated from it. I mean, my mom was a staunch Catholic, and she was just so, the Pope in Rome and all that business. And she suspected something. She thought there was something not right about what was happening because they're taking the kids away, and a lot of times they didn't come back.
Mm.
So
Oh, so we can move on. Yeah. You mentor a lot of Indigenous artists, young artists, and I know, having read up a bit about you and talking to people about you, this is now like a big part of your life, like working with younger artists and helping them through the industry. And I guess I'm wondering, what is it that they need to hear about the music industry and about being Indigenous in the music industry?
well, that's kind of the joy of living now. I mean, I still do concerts, big concerts. You know, we're still the Seaweed Band, and we're still all up and running. So it's like the Rolling Stones, you know, way past their time, but
Of
still
course, yeah.
yeah. But you know, the kids now, like the ones that are going to be around, and you know, I think my role is really basic. You know, it's a small little how-to, but for them, they see me
Yeah.
as this kind of you know, phantom kind of thing, and so that I really enjoy because I know what we went through to get there, and I see them starting out, and they have a song, you know, and they're all
Yeah.
pumped up about that song. A lot of times they know more about, you know, their career path than I could ever tell them. They're already up hip, but they come to me anyway, you know, and I say, well, you know what, the industry has changed a lot, you know, from the days when we were trying to get heard, and so, you know, you probably have a lot more. The only thing I can talk to you about is, you know, is the spiritual part of it. You know,
Yes.
that
Interesting.
yeah, we connect to a creator,
Yeah.
and that's what's going to be your it's going to hold you together no matter what happens. If you don't have that, you might be going into a space where, you know, it can chew you up and spit you out. So you really need to be centered, and you need to be strong, and being strong is being spiritually strong.
Yeah.
And that's what I guess that's was the running theme through our whole campaign. Like we had a strong spirit. I think the spirit of the Seaweed Band was so much greater than the parts, and we all, I think, came to realize that somewhere through the campaign. I remember when I realized that, you know, this is not just for me. This is not just for us, like the band. The whole community has become involved, you know, and so we need to really suit up and show up. Like it changed the way we did things. You know, it was quite remarkable. And talking about it now, and I remember different things like from that exact time, and everybody just seemed to walk differently and talk differently. All of a sudden, they had this sense of you know, importance, or, you know, whatever it was, but we needed to play the role that we were put in, and so it dictated our days, you know, and how we approach things. It was really it was fun, and sometimes a little scary.
Yeah.
And sometimes we made mistakes, you know, and the rest of us would draw the other one in, you know. It was really, really amazing how, you know, we were tight, and we blocked out the rest of the world. Like nobody could get into our circle. Like we
Yeah.
made certain that we kept people out of our circle.
It's your special place.
Yes, and we hung together, and we said we're going to do this thing, and all kind right up until the, you know, the breakup of the band in 1987. But I mean, I continued on the campaign, and I rolled with a few albums because I kept writing, right?
Yeah.
So I kept the Seaweed Band going, even though my brothers were doing other things, but it all came back again. Of course it would. You know, we kind of met in the parking lot and said, "Hey, what's
Let's
going
do
on?" Yeah.
Interesting. Before we like lower the curtain on this conversation, I would love to hear you read maybe a small section of your book,
Sure.
so our viewers get a
Absolutely.
sense of your voice.
All right. Here's my reading glasses. I've just cracked the book, so I don't know what I'm going to read here.
Good.
But on page 90,
All
at
right.
the top, it says Indigenous leaders, they pulled me out of going the wrong way. Funny, we're just talking about that.
Yeah.
They got me facing the right way. I remember I had been sober for 7 months in Leslie, and I was driving home from Maddox Recording Studios. I remember the night, vivid clearly as it was right now, and listening to the unmixed version of I Want to Fly on the CD player in the van. I remember thinking, I believe I'm off that shit for good, cocaine. That was October 1989. I'd been sober since March 22nd, 1989. That's my dry date. Long-term relationships are difficult to maintain for musicians. You're away for long stretches of time, and when you're around, the focus is always on you, not her. It's hard for a woman to accept that kind of life, alone much of the time, and in the shadows, the rest. The reality for me is that I'm married to the stage. There's no place for a woman because my love and passion go to the stage. I leave it all on the stage. It's hard for a partner to compete with that. Southern rocker Toy Caldwell of the Marshall Tucker Band once said, "The stage is the god-darndest woman I've ever known." I concur.
Errol, that's great. Thank you for the excellent conversation. It's been an absolute joy to talk to you. I want to thank everyone out there for joining us. And you can find Run as One at your favorite local bookseller. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmine.